Okay, guys, today in class, what we want to do is we want to get through what a stratified random sample is, a cluster sample is, and disadvantages and advantages of an SRS, stratified random sample, and cluster sampling. All right, let's get going. Example 5 here, we have a growing percentage of Americans are dropping their traditional landline phones and using their cell phones exclusively. This has caused a problem for polling organizations who in the past have only used landlines when randomly selecting people for their polls. Since the group of people who use cell phones exclusively are different in many ways than people who do not rely exclusively on cell phones, polling organizations now use stratified sampling design that selects a random sample of cell phone users and a random sample of landline users. Okay, what is a stratified random sample? In a simple random sample, we had one hat. Let's say we wanted to sample 100 people. 100 of those phone numbers would come out of that one hat, right? The issue is here is if, now keep in mind, our book was written in 2007, okay, right? So normally the people in their 20s, they only had cell phones. And then people in their 30s and older, people with children and older than that, so usually around their 30s and older, those people also had a landline and a cell phone, okay? So what would happen is they would randomly take out 100 traditional landline numbers and call these people, right? And poll them. But that's missing out on those people in their 20s that possibly don't have a traditional landline. That was me when I was in my 20s, okay? I didn't have a landline. I still don't have a landline. So what they would do then, right? In this example, in example 5, there'd be 2 hats. And then instead of interviewing 100 people from one hat, we would take 50 people out of the traditional landline hat. We'd pull out 50 random phone numbers from this hat. And then again, we'd go to the cell phone hat and we'd pull 50 random cell phone numbers and interview those guys. This is so we don't have any undercoverage bias, missing out on that population of people that only have that cell phone. Okay, so how do we do a stratified random sample? What do we need to do? Step 1, what we need to do is we need to classify the population into groups of similar individuals. These are called strata. You can imagine, what if I wanted to figure out, I wanted to give Armstrong a poll, and I wanted to see what was their favorite thing about high school. And I had one hat, right? And I pulled 100 names. What if all those people that I pull out, they were 9th graders? Do you think their views are, not all, but most? Do you think there's a chance that could happen? Is it likely? No, but there is a chance. Do you think 9th graders' view on their favorite thing about high school is going to be different than 12th graders? I'm guessing it will be. So what do we want to do to ensure we have our sample better represents our population? Let's have a hat for 9th graders, 10th graders, 11th graders, and 12th graders. Those are called stratas. Then step 2, what we do then is we choose a separate SRS in each stratum, each of those hats, okay, to form that full sample. So that's what I was talking about. Instead of taking 100 out of the first hat, we would take 25 out of the 9th grade hat, 25 out of the 10th grade, 25 out of the 11th grade, and 25 out of the 12th grade. And then we'd ask them, what's your favorite thing about high school? So on and so forth. When I have people in class, I usually show the Hunger Games, right? If you've seen the movie The Hunger Games, there is a bowl for the boys and there's a bowl for the girls, okay? If it was a simple random sample, they would have one bowl and just pull 2 names out, meaning 2 boys could go or 2 girls could go. We want to ensure, though, that 1 boy goes and 1 girl goes, so that's why there's a bowl for the girls and a bowl for the boys. That's a stratified random sample. Here's my example of how to actually write it down AP style, okay? Write everyone's name on the same size sheet of paper. Put males in one hat and females in another. Take the male hat, shake it up. Okay, that's your randomization there, and pull 1 name out. Repeat with the females. And that will give you credit for the College Board there on how to do a stratified random sample when we're talking about the Hunger Games. Let's talk about what a cluster sample is, okay? So before we actually write it down, let's just describe. Let's imagine again that we want to get students' opinions about their high school experience at Armstrong High School, okay? So what we would do, let's say a statistician is hired and the district saying, hey, I don't have a lot of money right now for you to do a simple random sample. So interviewing 100 people. And a stratified random sample is going to be even more money because it's going to take more time, right? Time is money. So stratified or simple random sample would be one hat, pull out 100 names. Ask those high schoolers, what are your opinions about Armstrong? A stratified random sample would be 4 hats, hopefully 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. Pull out 25 names in each hat. What are your opinions on high school? Again, I don't have the time, don't have the money, so there's something called a cluster sample. At Armstrong, we have advisories or homeroom teachers, it's called in other schools. So what we could do is we could generate a list of all of the homeroom teachers or advisory teachers. We'd put their names in a hat now, because that's not going to take as long to generate that list. We put their names in a hat. Let's say we pull out 5 teachers. There's approximately 20 kids in an advisory. If my name, Mrs. Opal, gets pulled out, then every single person in my advisory, they would get questioned about their opinions about high school at Armstrong, okay? Or opinions about Armstrong, whatever, okay? Cluster sample, again, it's a little bit easier to execute, okay? It doesn't take as much time in the part of randomization. So step 1, we divide the population into smaller groups, okay? Again, that's that advisory. We want to make sure they mirror characteristics of the population. Hopefully advisories do that. It's a decent representation of high school. Now, granted, with advisories, the issue would be grades. What if I pulled out 5 teachers who are all senior advisory teachers, okay? And we'll talk about that. Then what we do, we choose an SRS of the cluster. So all, okay, of those clusters, so Mrs. Opal, Mrs. Hartman, Mr. Lloyd, all our names are going in that. We're shaking the hat up, right? Pulling names out. If your name's pulled out, all the individuals in that cluster are in the sample. How do we write it AP style? Here, cluster by advisory teachers. Write every advisor's name on equal size sheets of paper. Put the papers in a hat, shake it up, and pull 5 teachers' names out. Everyone in the advisory will be sampled. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about some advantages and disadvantages. I'm going to post a separate video about a hotel on the beach, or we may do this as a partner problem too. But if you just want a College Board example, or I'm sorry, if you want another example, excuse me, I'm tripping over my words here, you can check the link for this example too, just talking about a different way to talk about a simple random sample, a stratified random sample, and why things would be good or not good. Again, we'll talk about this in class, and I'm hoping to do a breakout room or something like that on this problem. Okay, advantages and disadvantages. What I'd like you to do right now in your notes is I'd like you to make this table. Okay, so it looks like we have 4 rows and 3 columns. Okay, so pause the video right now to do that. We're going to talk about a simple random sample too. Keep in mind, it is an expectation for the College Board that you know what makes something a simple random sample. And that is where all possible combinations of that sample size have an equal chance of getting called on. So for example, if there's 20 people in a room and I'm pulling on 3 people, I could get girl A, girl B, girl C. I could get girl A, girl B, boy A, okay? I could get all different combinations of samples. So I could get Johnny, Jimmy, Anders, Johnny, Jimmy, Susie, Johnny, Jimmy, Annika, okay? I could get Johnny, Annika, Susie, all those different combinations of kids in the class of size 3. And an advantage of an SRS, it's easy to execute, and each student has the same chance to be selected. A disadvantage, there's a chance that certain groups could be over or underrepresented just by chance. Remember, I talked about having that one hat. So an SRS is one hat, right? Well, if I have all of Armstrong in one hat, I pull out 100 names, I ask their opinions about high school, there is a chance that I could have a majority of lowerclassmen, excuse me. A stratified random sample is where we have 2 or more hats. What's an advantage of that, okay? There's no chance that a group will be over or underrepresented, but a disadvantage is it is more complicated. A cluster sample is convenient, but again, there is a chance that certain groups will be under or overrepresented. All right, ladies and gentlemen, in our live teaching, we talked about a simple random sample, Okay, in this video, you should feel comfortable with a stratified random sample, a cluster sample, and then disadvantages and advantages of an SRS, a stratified random sample, and a cluster sample. Have a great day, guys.